Berkshires has their share and more of stories of the paranormal. Today, we're going to hit an area that has distinct and sustained reports of the Sasquatch, also known as Bigfoot. Reports that go back now 50 years. And of course, the tribal peoples of the Housatonic Valley and the Westfield River Valley all had their stories of what we know of today as October Mountain, which was coined by, believe it or not, Herman Melville, the guy that wrote Moby Dick. Herman Melville, from the vastness of Arrowhead, his residence in eastern Pittsfield, would look at the October Mountain range and was basically enamored by the striations formed by the fall leaves. There's a lot of tamarack on the side of October Mountain that turns that kind of rusty yellow color, along with the reds of the maples. And I mean, it's high summer, so we're not thinking about the fall right now, but he referred to this massif of the Berkshire Hills as October Mountain. We've now got to the top. We're about 1,700, 1,800 feet above sea level. And yeah, the Berkshires, some of the oldest rock on the planet, 1.5 billion as we go by road cuts. Really interesting stuff. But the stories of strange, hairy men, well, they could be women, seen at a distance, noises in the night, howls, screams, broken branches echoing around campsites, not the product of bear, but of something more. And of course, this is all coupled with the 1767 capture in Great Barrington of an actual Bigfoot. Now, what a story that is, and we're going to bring you that another day. But here in 1983, we have a story that lives on about a group of scouts that were basically scared out of their minds by an encounter with Bigfoot, and there have been more since. As I've said already, the mountain was given its name by Herman Melville, and it's really a massif, a long, 25-mile-long range that's really conglomerated into one parent mountain. But it is not far from here that one of the Bigfoot sightings that we're investigating today occurred. The thing about October Mountain is it is the largest state forest in Massachusetts, and it's abutting more than 50,000 acres of watershed land. So you're talking about as dense forest as you're going to find in Massachusetts, and it's also the home of the Appalachian Trail. What we have here is the Appalachian Trail as it meanders through October Mountain in western Massachusetts. And there have been stories of hikers who have made encounters along the trail, of course. And October Mountain has been a hot spot of some of those encounters. Now, you'll notice that October Mountain has a particularly interesting tree that's not common in most of Massachusetts. And that would be these spruce trees right here. Because of the elevation, these spruces flourish in this forest. And they can create some very, very dense thickets that can make lots of animals appear bigger than they are, and of course more mysterious because of the darkness created. I'm getting a little funny feeling. Never mind. So I'm standing right now at the epicenter of unusual paranormal events that have happened in October Mountain. This Four Corners, this crossroads as we would call it, has been the center of many stories of things from UFOs to Sasquatch sightings. The October Mountain Four Corners, about 1,800 feet above sea level, and definitely a place to visit if you're thinking about investigating October Mountain. There's nothing simple about October Mountain. It's a very rough state forest, and we're accessing this pond after quite a drag. This forest is thick, dense, and dark. And of course, if you're thinking about anywhere in Massachusetts where there may be sightings of the Squatch, you can see why it would be October Mountain. This is a beautiful example, Tom, of one of those tamaracks. This is an evergreen, well, I can't say it. It's a coniferous tree that loses its needles in the fall. Yeah, there's larch and tamarack. It's beautiful. Look at the beautiful foliage on that tree. And then here to our right is a great example of one of those spruce. Very cool. There we go. Took me a little longer than Officer Price, but I have scored. And we got ourselves a largemouth. Not a huge one. Let's check out the condition of this guy. Oh, he's got some beef to him. He's not a little scrawny guy. A little bit of a belly there. He's doing well here. All right, I'm on the board, Tom. They're all, well, I mean, this is a, I like this better than the other lake because I think it's got better structure. And it's obviously like less well known, you know. It's not even on the map. Not only is it not on the map, it's not on like the Google map, which is insane. I mean, you know what I mean? Well, I guess if you had it on satellite images, you could see it. I'm sure there's a lot of snapping turtles in here. I just saw some bubbles come up. We got a beaver slough going up there, Tom, where the beavers were climbing out of the water to cut wood. See right here, all their little, oh, missed one. Didn't miss him that time, boy. I got me a mean old largemouth bass on Mr. Grub. Oh, he hit the fly. Yes. Oh, yes. Not a huge one, but he's game. And this is a chubby one. But how about the ones you're getting, Mike?
Big bellies. I mean, they're not big fish, but they got big bellies.
Yeah. I just missed one. They can't resist the spinnerbait. They love a good spinnerbait. Try to throw this out over the deeper structure and see if I can get one to come up for it. Off the log. Here we go. Nothing of size, but again, the spinnerbait another fat guy. Mr. Largemouth. You just heard that frog on the shore. Spinnerbaits are one of those baits. It's like, what the heck is it supposed to be? Is it a frog? Is it a... I think it's a school of little fish. I think that's what they think it is. Got one? I just picked one off in the lily pads. Really? That's what we want. There we go. Oh, he fell. Oh no. Gotta get him too, because he could slide under the seat and end up. Oh! You can see how the shoreline here is covered with those spruce trees, which grow very, very close together, creating like a dense wall of conifer. And you can also imagine how when you're fishing here or when you're camping around such a stand of trees, it would be easy for something to be concealed behind them without you even knowing that it was there. There are a lot of fish in this lake, which we like. And I heard that Squatch isn't a fisherman. Let's hope it's one of those perch. Yeah. So we're looking for that drop off. There's got to be some pigs in this lake. Do you say Rapala or do you say Rapala? I say Rapala. Out in the Midwest, they say Rapala. Yeah, Stephen was saying they do. He was out in Minnesota all that time. He said they say Rapala. Ooh. A lot of action on the shoreline in this lake, too. A lot of little fish banging, which is cool. Look at that, Tom, right in front of us. Pads. You see them? Tom is a Rapala guy from way back. I am a Rapala guy from way back, but I've taken some years off, so I can't even claim to have the expertise with the Rapala that Tom does. So I'm just like, I'm throwing the cowboy over there. Let it sink under them pads, see if I get anything. Right. Tom has brought out his #2 kayak for this expedition as a result of the fact that we had to do some off-roading and we didn't want to risk. It's a feel-free kayak by Moken.
They've got a version 2.
Oh, version 2. It almost makes 2 little ponds. Look at that, Tom. Tom's on and I'm on. Oh, he was a little better. No! He's getting bigger. Tom. A little bigger. Spinnerbaits often need a little bit of wind like this when you're burning them. Stirs up the water and makes it a little more like palatable to the bass. He's not as afraid. I love it when they hit on impact. You throw a spinnerbait and one hits on impact. Oh! Another decent sized one, Tom. I mean, not nothing to write home about. I mean, he's not a huge fish, but he's bigger than what we were getting. He's not 6 inches. He's 11 inches. You can hear the stream coming in here. This big. Uh-oh, here we go. Oh no! Falling victim to the Rapala. Oh, he just did a cartwheel. Okay. The thing about Rapalas is you can be a little careful taking them off with a Rapala. It's got the 2 trebles, and there he goes. Little fat guy again. Oh, look at, here's the brook right here, I think. I had like a submarine fleet of bass chasing it out of there. Yeah. Yeah, it's a big, it's like a river. This one's the bigger of the 2. The one on the other side isn't as big. And you can see the insane amount of spruce, thick spruce in here. Oh yeah, they're right here too. Oh, you can get around that way, Tom. Yeah. Probably a deer. I got one up the creek. I'm going to have to drag him through the grass. Oh, yeah. Well, you didn't expect the spinnerbait coming from a kayak, did you? That's where you made your mistake today. You'll be able to plug it right up.
Goes up to the right?
You're going to, yeah, it's going to go around the corner. You're going to catch some fish in there.
Got one. Going in the trees.
Oh, Tom, spruce feels good against the naked skin. So while Tom gets this off, just about half a mile up this stream and to the west was a spot where they were using as a log landing. And this guy, and I'm not going to give his name, he's been logging out here for 25, 30 years now. And yeah, he'll get into the sauce once in a while, but he's a pretty reputable guy. He's talked to me about fishing locations and hunting locations, and he's never given me a bad story. But the point is, he was out there working the skidder, and he had a experience that he says still makes him hesitate when he's getting a job out here in October Mountain, and there's another big logging contract coming soon. He may end up working. He was out there, and he said when he got to the site at 5:30 in the morning, it just stunk. The sun's coming up. It's a beautiful area, but he just smelled. He smelled bear, and bear are a very smelly critter, and moose are too if you're downwind of them sometimes. And he said it was a stench like he had not encountered in the woods. So he figured something was dead somewhere, and he started working. And as he was firing up his skidder, he just heard a racket off to his left along this stream, which is a series of beaver ponds moving, would be east. And he heard all kinds of crashing and like thrashing, and then he heard a scream. And he still says, when I think about that scream, I never bought the whole Bigfoot thing, but that scream made a believer out of me. Now, I haven't had such an experience, but that's what he told me. And here's that brook, which is a torrent in the springtime with the snow melt. And then after a, of course, heavy thunderstorm comes through the mountains here. Look at the size of that perch. That's a summertime perch, too. You usually find them in deep water, but Officer Price has used the Rapala to slaughter that guy. Oh, yeah. Look at you. Look at you. Ooh. Have you caught a lot of them around stumps? Yeah. Me too. They're relating to wood. Oh, where they admitted that it really happened?
He's a guy from like the Springfield Yacht Club or something.
Yeah.
And he was showing video. So like 22 like contacted Springfield Sewer, and they said something like, oh, well, you know, we can't control it when it floods.
Yeah, in other words, they said they flooded it, then they retracted it because of the Iron Man. Then they came out and had to admit, anybody that knows Springfield would know that they lied, you know. So the Iron Man guys were basically swimming in the aftertaste of Springfield. There we go on the Whopper Plopper, number 2. This little Whopper Plopper is producing. They're on a dragonfly pattern, so they like that buzz that the Whopper Plopper gives. Oh, he's a little guy. Something snapped a twig in there. Oh! Oh, yes! Oh. The thing about Bigfoot sightings in Massachusetts, you know, people will say we don't have a lot of woods. But our woods are pretty much connected tree to tree to the great forests up in Quebec. I mean, we know that the bear have come back, and they made their way back in from New Hampshire and New York. And so have the moose and all kinds of other critters that were extirpated from our area. And they made their way back down natural, what we call wildlife corridors. So if there is a critter like the Sasquatch that we hear about, it's not unthinkable that it could move down those same wildlife corridors. For instance, the cougar, right? The eastern mountain lion, which people have been saying they've been seeing in Western Mass since the 1950s. My grandfather purportedly took a shot at one. The cougar is really difficult to mistake for a bobcat. We got all kinds of people in our area who are taking pictures with their wildlife cameras and with their Ring doorbells and everything else, and with their cell phones, of bobcats. Bobcats have a tiny little tail. A cougar has a tail that's like 5 feet long, 6 feet long. You can't really mistake them. If I heard somebody tell me they saw a cougar, though, I didn't want to believe it until I was driving down Route 202 10 years ago, right in the, well, the outskirts of Southwick, between Southwick and Westfield, and right where a golf course, there's Tom pulling one in over there, right where a golf course crosses the road, Southwick Country Club, now defunct, right there. A cougar in one bound jumped across the road. I called the game wardens. I called the Southwick PD. Game wardens wanted nothing to do with it. They didn't even return the call. Southwick PD came, they sent an officer, we had a talk, and there had been multiple cougar sightings in that area over the previous 3 or 4 years. And from what the policeman said, he said that the game wardens had told him that it was probably what you would call a pet release. So one of the wealthy people that lives in Simsbury, Connecticut, or Bloomfield, Connecticut, down south, or even from Southwick itself, got a cougar as a pet and ended up getting, realizing these things are expensive to keep and let it go. And that makes sense. But as far as Bigfoot sightings, I don't know of anybody keeping Bigfoot as a pet. What were you going to say, Tom? Well, maybe Tammy's keeping Bigfoot, it's possible. But a pet release of a Sasquatch is a different ball of wax. You can really hear that brook pounding too. So we're not talking pet release. But the other thing you got to think about is they don't have a lot of people lately making reports about sightings. And when they do, how much experience do they have with the critters of our eastern woodlands? Like if you see a moose from dead on, like I saw a couple of years ago, a mother moose and her baby standing in the road looking at me as they came around a corner, you would have sworn you were looking at two squatches because they're huge, very tall critters, and they're looking right at you, so you can't see the four legs. You see the front of the moose. And I had a moment of 2 or 3 seconds where I was like, am I looking at the Squatch? And then they turned and ran off into the woods, and I realized, wow. So I can see a moose being mistaken for a Bigfoot fairly easily, especially somebody that, isn't really skilled in the woods and has a fear reaction and looks away for a second and then looks back, and what they thought was Bigfoot is now gone. Remember that the French name for the moose is Elan, which means spirit, because they can move so quiet in the woods. Just an interesting, thought. So you want to be a little bit skeptical when you run into people that are telling you their stories about Squatch. You don't want to be a Pollyanna. But you know what? At the same time, there's a lot of people that have had their sightings. When you get caught in a sudden storm, like Tom and I, find yourself a tree like this, as Tom calls it, a cotton ball tree. But we know it as the white pine. If you've got one available, if it's a sudden passing shower, utilize it. So Officer Price and I are under the shelter of a white pine tree here, keeping our heads down while a shower passes here at October Mountain. Now, that's another interesting thing about October Mountain. Because of the elevation and probably the proximity to the Housatonic Valley, the weather here tends to be pretty extreme for southern New England. It adds to a spookiness. The area is filled with trees in one state of life or another, with standing dead trees and beaver swamps. It's definitely got a freaky air to it, which, combined with a few horror movies and an active imagination, can lead people to, as Officer Price will tell you, get a little rambunctious with their stories. As a career police officer, Price knows that the statements that witnesses make are often suspect as a result of emotions getting tangled up in the story. The quicker you can get a story, the more accurate that story or statement will be. Am I right, officer? Usually. A good officer never commits to any statement. Notice how Officer Price said, usually. There are some that have tremendous memories for moments, and in some cases the trauma can cause a memory scar that can clear with time. But generally you want to get those stories quick. And a lot of our stories about Sasquatch in October Mountain are coming to us years after the events, which is suspect in itself, but part of the story. I've been fishing and hunting October Mountain State Forest for more than 30 years, and it's a big area with a lot of places I haven't been yet and a lot of secrets that I'm sure it hasn't shared with me. But I'm going to tell you, Tom and I had a great day fishing the lake we were on, and there's plenty more that we're going to investigate, as well as some actual stories about the different Bigfoot sightings that occurred there in the 80s beyond what we talked about here. So stay with us and like and subscribe.